Alright, for this activity we are going to measure the resistance in these 3 spools of wire, and that resistance, along with the data on the ohms of resistance per meter, will let us figure out how many meters of wire are wrapped up in this spool. So we'll go from smallest wire gauge, which will be this 32 gauge white wire, all the way up to the 10 gauge wire. The multimeter gets set to horseshoe, which measures resistance. It's the letter omega. And to measure the resistance, we first set it to the smallest value, which is 200 on here, which means the meter will read resistances from 0 all the way up to 200 ohms. We need to make good contact with the probes, but if I touch it with my fingers, then I will get then I will measure the resistance going through me instead of through the wire spool. So we have good contact, and this is measuring a resistance of 2.2 ohms. So this is holding steady at 2.2 ohms. So the resistance of this entire 32 gauge wire spool is 2.2 ohms. The next one will be this 12 gauge wire. It's a much larger gauge of wire, and we have a lower resistance because it's easier to travel through big wires. And for 12 gauge wire, we are at 2.0 ohms. We'll leave it at 2.0 ohms. This is what's typically in your walls. You want low resistance so you create less heat. The last wire we have is the 10 gauge wire. It is threaded, that makes it easier to bend around corners, and the 10 gauge wire, the resistance is 1.1 ohms. 1.1 ohms of resistance in this entire wire spool.